Okay. So no comments. Nobody would like to say anything. You are all right. All right. No questions. Nothing. Okay. So in that case, I will resume. Now, I was still at the beginning, as you can see, the first page really here. And as I was always trying to tell you about the narrative voice and the narrator, how Huckleberry Finn really is telling us his own story and the twists and the things which will appear later on, as I mentioned to you many times. And I will repeat that again and again when I come through that. So again, when I was always trying to draw your attention to those stylistic, the repetition of subjects and the, I think, well, maybe, as I said, ungrammatical, but this is what the writer would like us to know, that this is the way people at that time or in that area really spoke, and he was just reflecting the whole thing in this clear fashion. Let me just put this, because electricity, it seems. Yeah. Okay. So here, Huckleberry is step by step introducing the scenery to us, and the way he was always trying to say that he does not really like this business of being respected, or at least, taken care of, and he wanted to fly away into his own childish, boyish, behavior with his friend Tom. Notice in the next few paragraphs, I highlighted those. Notice, after supper, she got out her book and learned me about Moses and the bulrushers. Again here, the word learned me, this is of course ungrammatical. We don't say this in English, learned me. We say she taught me, instead of, using this as, I think, the wrong use of the verb. And I think people, I know I've heard of so many students, or I've seen so many students maybe making the same mistake, do not know the difference between teach and learn, really. To learn yourself, but to teach others, to tell people, other people, like I am the teacher and you are the learners, if you like hear the idea. So he's saying she got out her book and learned me, instead of saying she taught me about Moses. And I was in a sweat to find out all about him. But by and by, she let it out that Moses had been dead a considerable long time, and then I didn't care no more about him, because I don't take no stock in dead people. Again, as I said, this double negative, sometimes really it's funny and annoying how he uses a lot this double negatives. I didn't care no more, I didn't care no more. Again, the same thing. I do not take no stock. As I said, this is very typical colloquial vernacular use of American English. And I think many, well, really many uneducated people, I should say, many uneducated people really do that. They use the same kind of English. Pretty soon I wanted to smoke and asked the widow to let me. Look at this, a child of 13 who, who's allowed, or who said, I wanted to smoke. What kind of treatment or education or bringing up? And, this is really terrible for a child of 13 or 14, to say, I wanted to smoke. And I think this is, again, typical of his wild behavior, typical of this, what I said, Rip Van Winkle's attitude or syndrome, because the same thing, this crazy element and behavior. And of course, she wouldn't let him. He said she would not. She wouldn't allow me to smoke. She said it was a mean practice and wasn't clean, and I must try to not do it. Again, try to not. Really, we should say must try not to do it. And many students, again, make the same mistake. Try to say, I try to not. It's really, this is wrong. To say, try not to. Try not to, not to not. I think this is many times, I've corrected this to many students. They make the same mistake. Notice again, of course, here we see his, the information we learn about him and his attitude, his behavior, and all this carry on, really. That's just the way with some people. They get down on a thing when they do not know anything, when they do not know nothing. Again, really should be anything, not nothing, as I, corrected it myself unintentionally. But yeah, again, if I wanted to highlight, I would have highlighted the whole book with these funny negatives again. Again, here she was bothering about Moses. She was bothering, maybe all bothering here. The word could be all, or sometimes could mean, he used it sometimes to mean are. But here she was all bothering about Moses, which was no kin to her. It's funny to say this, and as if he's a child and he has no idea who Moses was, And as you can see, Moses with capital M, really it means of course, the absolutely famous prophet, Musa alayhi salam, and he wants to say about that, which was no kin to her and no use to anybody being gone, you see, yet finding a power of fault with me for doing a thing that had some good in it. And she took snuff too. Again, notice he's telling us something about her, as if to say, she's telling me not to smoke, but she's sniffing smoke herself, using snuff here, the word again to say, instead of smoking, she's sniffing, which is really even worse. And again, we say, come on, what kind of society is this? What kind of people are these? Of course, that was all right because she done it herself, You see, this is it. He as if to say, well, she is teaching me something not to smoke, but she's doing worse. Again, to see here, of course, the hypocrisy and the attitudes that sometimes really the American society. And I think, as I told you about the question of irony, this could be ironical and could be funny to say about the behavior of people towards the whole matter of education. Notice, her sister, Miss Watson, a tolerable, slim old maid with goggles on, had just come to live with her and took a set at me, now with a spelling book. Again, he wants to go on to elaborate. Well, he did, of course. As I said, he elaborated a lot about, they wanted to teach him. And here he's talking about his, his experience with not only with Miss Douglas or the widow Douglas. He's talking about her sister, Miss Watson. Again, notice as she's a spinster. And, Miss Watson also, we know that she keeps the slave Jim later on. We will know this about him. So here he's saying she wanted me also to teach she wanted to teach me how to spell words and to how to be a good reader of English and speller of English. She worked me middling hard for about an hour. Again, look at this funny English. She worked me. What's this? She worked me middling hard for about an hour. Again, this is really funny English where you say, what's this? She worked me middling. You know, as if to say mixing, or she found me, or she discovered me. She tried all the time that she wanted to cure me of my mistakes, you know, because I was making a lot of mistakes in spelling and all this. And then the widow made her ease up. I couldn't stood it much longer. Again here, couldn't stood it. Again, this is really funny grammar, you know, could in the past and stood in the past. You know, if you use the past, you should say you couldn't stand, not couldn't stood. Could not stand, not could not stood. You know, again, you know, I think this is very much, as I said, would be very nice to go through all these grammatical errors and grammatical mistakes here and try to correct them. And to see, as I told you before, really, it's all to do with the social, political, ideological stance, or the discursive comeback, if you like, or the discursive reaction with this kind of discourse. As I told you before, the language used here is more social, more ideological, more racial. It's used here for a purpose, as a kind of reaction against your own conditions and your own society and your own things. And, you know, that's why I think it would be, well, I mean, it would be interesting to look at all those really attitudes towards grammar and structure concerning, you know, society and ideology and politics and the race, really the racial issue here. Because later on we shall talk about and we shall mention even more about how blacks as a different race really even speak horrible English. You know, you could never understand. Sometimes you could never understand what they are saying because it's very deformed, absolutely horribly made, horribly structured English. We shall see this, the way he said this. Miss Watson would say, don't put your feet up there, Huckleberry. Again, when she said, don't scrunch up like that, Huckleberry, and set up straight, Huckleberry. Don't gap and stretch that, Huckleberry, and so on and so on. So he wants to say, as if to say, he was always blamed and he was always being taught what to do and what not to do, you know, all the time. Then she told me all about the bad place. And I said, I wished I was there. You know, it's really, again, the reaction against her. Saying that she was saying that the whole place is so ugly, so bad, so terrible, blah, 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 blah. And he's saying, and he's listening, as if to say, well, I wanted to be there to see how bad it is, maybe. Of course, as I said, really, it's in a funny way, ironical way to say, what she's really teaching me is rubbish, and I don't care about what she's saying. Notice, all I wanted was to go somewhere. All I wanted was a change. I weren't particular. Yeah, what is weren't particular? Yeah, anybody? Yes? Anyone? Hello? Anybody writing in the chat? Yeah, what's that? Hello, girls, boys. Well, I have 27 people here. Where are you? Well, 28? Really? Yeah, come on. Anybody? Or you're not?
We are here, but we don't
You
know
are
the
not
answer.
in the mood. You are not in the mood.
Yes, kinda.
Yeah, I understand. Wallahi, I understand. You are not in the mood. You didn't have your breakfast. You are still in bed. Oh, we don't like that, you know. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So, really here, again, when you say, all I wanted was a change, I wouldn't particular, again, really to say here exactly again what I was saying, you know, I don't care at all about what she's teaching me. I don't like it at all. You know, I'm not interested at all. When you say I were particular, I was not absolutely in the least. I was not in the mood at, you know, in the least for this education. And I really wanted to run away from this. And I have, you know, I have no inclination whatsoever to this. And I don't like it. You know, again, this reminds me of this crazy, open, childish, wild, miserable, careless, you know, lazy attitude that he wants to take against, you know, all the things. As I told you before, as really Rip Van Winkle, my friend Rip Van Winkle, was exactly the same. You know, he was absolutely lazy and laying around. Like even here we shall see, of course, I told you this, you know, Huckleberry, his father is the same. Even his father was is a terrible man. His father was a thief even. He was a wicked man, he was a horrible man, and he was shot dead because of his terrible behavior and a terrible character. And notice how he's narrating this really in a funny way. She said it was wicked to say what I said. She said she wouldn't say it for the whole world. She was going to live so as to go to the good place. Oh, the good place. What good place? Where is it? You know, meaning, of course, he wants to say, you know, she is doing good for hoping that she's going to be, you know, rewarded by paradise. Of course, that's the idea. Well, I couldn't see no advantage of going where she was going. You know, he said, yeah, well, if she wants to convince me that she's a hard, a good, etc., woman, and she wants to teach me everything good and correct and blah, 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 and she's going to heaven, well, I don't care. I don't want to go to her, with her, you know, whether she's going there or not, you know. Again, as I said, really, it's funny. And the narrator here is trying to laugh at his attitude and his views towards society and towards, you know, what is heaven and what is not, and what's good and what's not. Again, I couldn't see no advantage of going where she was going, so I made up my mind I wouldn't try for it. But I never said so, because it would not only make trouble, and I wouldn't and wouldn't do no good. You know, again, notice the English again, the funny thing, the negatives, the double negatives, wouldn't do no good. You know, we say it wouldn't do any good. Again, I think this tells us more about himself, isn't it? Again and again. Now she had got a start, and she went on and told me all about the good place. She said all a body would have to do there was to go around all day long with a harp and sing forever and never and ever and ever. What? Again, to say a body, you know, to say a body, she said all a body would have to do, a body, you know. Again, I think sometimes in American English, I don't know, again, they say body, you know. but not with an O, with U, double D-Y. Buddy means a friend. Again, the same thing here to me. She said, oh, what a person, what a one man, or what a man wants, or would do there. Where? There? Where? To do there? Where? He means in heaven, in paradise. Is to go around all day long with a harp and sing forever and ever and ever. What? What's that? Harp and sing? Again, notice the attitude, maybe the funny attitude that maybe Mark Twain is laughing about his belief, because remember later on we shall see at the beginning, we know he said, I'm not a believer and I don't care about religion. And he never really cared about religion. And, to say here about heaven or paradise, to have a harp and sing and, I don't know. I mean, this is really very funny to say that, and it's very ugly. Maybe to some people say, come on, man, what's this? So I didn't think much of it, but I never said so. I asked her if she reckoned Tom Sawyer would go there. And she said not by a considerable sight. I was glad about that because I wanted him and me to be together. I think it's very clear. You can see this is like a childish language, a childish discourse. A boy of 13 is saying, I don't want to go there. I don't want to be there, as if doing nothing. I want to be with my friend Tom Sawyer, and we will be wild and crazy and so on. And of course, as I say, the narrator really is mocking, absolutely ironical and laughing and mocking about Huckleberry's white mentality as being a child, spoiled child, if you like, spoiled child, not educated child, who would say this. And he goes on and on and on about that, in the next few pages and paragraphs everywhere. I think he went on to say this. Again, here in the next one, he said about prayers and niggers. He's saying this, notice. Miss Watson, she kept pecking at me, and it got tiresome and lonesome. Yeah, notice here again, pecking, kept pecking at me. I think this is a very nice word. I think sometimes we use it. Anybody knows what does it mean? Huh? To peck on someone? Yeah, really, it's like, like always pinching me or always annoying me or always, nudging me or always trying to really make me do things which I don't want to do. As if to say, she's always nagging at me and like nearly hitting me to do things. And that's why he said, things got really very tiresome, and I felt very bad and ugly, and I don't like it. And what he was saying, lonesome, being lonely at the end of the day. Of course, as I said, remember, as always to say this about being a 13-year-old white boy who wants just to be lazy and do nothing. He is totally against all this element of education. Well, it's home education here, really. It's not by sending to school. But later on, of course, they said, we will send you to school. Why don't you get a real proper education? By and by, they fetched the niggers in and had prayers. And then everybody was off to bed. I went up to my room with a piece of candle and put it on the table. Then I sat down in a chair by the window and tried to think of something cheerful, but it was not. Well, he said it were not. I mean, this is very funny English, and there's no verb in English to were not. Were not, say was not or were not. And, you know, he wanted to say was not, you know, any use. Again, was not no. You know, again here, the double negatives, which is really very funny in many ways. So again, we should say that double negatives does not mean positive. Double negatives does not mean positive. Really, it means just emphasizing the negative, which is, you know, the idea about no. I felt so lonesome, and I most wished I was dead. Astaghfirullah. Come on, boy. Why? Again, you know, just to highlight the idea that he wants to sort of, you know, feel that he wants to, you know, have his freedom and to run away with his friend Tom. Again, do you follow, and do you have any question about all this? But I think it's very clear, and I'm trying to highlight all those ideas. So really, from all this, you can see more and more about Tom's character. You know, well, not just Tom, I should say, not Tom Sawyer, I should say more really Huckleberry's character. I got so downhearted and scared I did wish I had some company. Pretty soon a spider went crawling up my shoulder, and I flipped it off and it lit in the candle. And before I could budge, it was all shriveled up. I didn't need anybody to tell me, you know, and he goes on and on and on about his feelings that he wants to run away. The next paragraph, again, I think, you know, the way he talks about the details and about the spider, you know, I was always saying, come on, yeah, Mark Twain, when are you going to start your story and telling us what's going on here? I sat down again, a shaking all over. Again, a shaking. Again, I think he wants to say a shaking all over. Again, all shaking all over, or shaking, a shaking. Again, this is really very funny or very strange English to say a shaking, a shaking. Again, a little dash or a little hyphen. Okay, and all over, as if to say all shaking all over, and got out my pipe for a smoke. So, yeah, I mean, this is again to say what is the attitude, that the terrible attitude that he's trying to teach us here in this really funny, absolutely strange narrative here. The house was all as still as death now, and so the widow wouldn't know. Again, he tells us more about his behavior, his wild behavior, and his funny behavior, and his sometimes really ugly behavior towards running away or towards not having or wanting this education thing done to him. Then I slipped down to the ground and crawled in among the trees, and sure enough, there was Tom Sawyer waiting for me. So he was trying to find the right moment to just run away a little bit, to run away and escape, really in a funny way, and he did here, of course, at the end of this chapter. And you know, in chapter 2, he really goes on and on about that to start the story here about Tom Sawyer and himself, how they ran away for a while, as I said, and behaved in a funny way. We went tiptoeing along a path amongst the trees back towards the end of the widow's garden, stooping down so as the branches wouldn't scrape our heads. When we was passing by the kitchen, again, notice, you know, his English, we was, okay, we was, huh? If you write this to me in the exam, I will fail you. When you say, we was passing by the kitchen, I fell over a root and made a noise. We crouched down and laid still. Miss Watson's big nigger named Jim was sitting in the kitchen. Again, say setting, was setting, setting or sitting, or, again, I have many people who make this mistake. Really, sometimes they do not differentiate between sit and set. Sit and set, S-I-T or S-E-T. And really, this is very sort of strange that, students or people make this mistake. Was sitting in the kitchen door, we could see him pretty clear because there was a light behind him. He got up and stretched his neck out, but a minute listening, then he says, Huda! Huda? What's da? Huda? Of course, as I told you before, we shall see the funny, absolutely strange and funny English or really, black African originally slave. Of course, here is a slave American or originally African slave in America, the way they speak. Of course, it's totally, really, as I said, ideological and political. And I think we shall see this many, many times. And I think here we shall read a lot of passages written this way. Of course, you shall see this in a minute. But yeah. Let me see who is here and who's not, because my system, yeah, I think, yeah, it worked. Now it worked. Yeah. 1, 2. Yeah, we have one person missing. I don't know who. Yeah. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I have 2 people missing, but anyway, I will check their names later because I have the list here. It shows. Yeah, let me see. Because I think, yeah, I want to take attendance to maybe check, because this system does not really sometimes does not show properly. Yeah, today, yeah. Abdul Aziz Khalfan.
Yes, doctor, I'm here.
Shua.
Yes, doctor, I'm here.
Asila. Asila Saeed. Asila, please, if you can't say, write your name, write present on the chat. Ghaitha.
Yes, doctor.
Umayma. Umayma. Okay, as I said, if you can't say, write in the chat. Ghaida. Ghaida. Yeah, I saw her name, but maybe she can't She can't speak. Noor Muhammad,
Yes, doctor.
Kawthar Hamid,
Yes, doctor.
Shahd Ali,
Yes, doctor.
Nof Ibrahim,
Yes, doctor.
Amjad,
Yes, doctor.
Munira, Salim,
Yes, doctor.
Mubin,
Yes, doctor.
Shafa, Dawood,
Yes, doctor.
Kawthar Khalfan Saeed,
Yes, doctor.
Siham Saif,
Yes, doctor.
Abir Salim, sorry, did I say Abir or Athir? Athir?
Yes, here, doctor.
Did I say Abir?
Yeah, my name is Athir.
Yeah, sorry, Athir, sorry, yes. Aisha Ali,
Yes, doctor.
yeah, I received your email. Have you received it back?
Yes, doctor. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Duha Khalfan,
Yes, doctor, here.
Ala Saeed,
Yes, doctor.
Abir Ali,
Yes, doctor.
Zahra Saeed,
Yes, doctor.
Basma Hamid, or
I'm
Hamad?
Hamad.
Yeah. Okay, Balqis,
Yes, I'm here.
Lubna,
Yes.
Rawia,
Yes, doctor.
Aya Rashid,
Yes, doctor, here.
Rayyan, Rayyan. Okay, so, all right, I will check those who were absent in the chat, and I will double check in the chat, and then I'll fix this if it's still not done. Okay, I'll go back to my screen and share again. So really, oh, did I stop sharing? Let me see. Oh. So here, as I say, I would like you to pay attention to what we shall see about Jim's language. Notice he listened some more, then he come tiptoeing down and stood right between us. We could touched him nearly. Well, likely it was minutes and minutes that there wasn't a sound, and we all there so clear together. There was a place on my ankle that got so to itching, and you know, as if to say this is just maybe the first snap, the first really example of you know, the terrible wild behavior that he wanted to have, or he wanted to tell us about his strange attitudes and strange behavior towards his, well, his own way of life, really, later on, about being in the wilderness or as being, you know, outside society. Say, who is you? What is you? Dogs, my cats, if I didn't hear something, you know, again, look at this funny English that Tom is speaking. Say, who is you? Who is you? Dogs, my cats, if I didn't hear something. Well, I know what is going to do. Is going to sit down here and listen till I hears it again. You know, if we hear Tom speaking, as you can see, really, we will laugh a lot about his English. And we have to correct a lot of his English to see, you know, to make it really absolutely English. So he sat down on the ground betwixt me and Tom. He leaned his back up against a tree and stretched his legs out till one of them most touched one of mine. My nose began to itch, or begun to itch. It itched till the tears come into my eyes, but I doesn't scratch. What funny English, doesn't, but I does not scratch. Then it began to itch on the middle, on the inside. Next, I got to itching underneath. I didn't know how I was going to sit still. This miserableness went on as much as 6 or 7 minutes, but it seemed a sight longer than that. I was itching in 11 different places now. I reckoned I couldn't stand it more a minute longer, but I set my teeth hard and got ready to try. Just then Jim began to breathe heavy. Next, he began to snore, and then I was pretty soon comfortable again. Again, notice Huckleberry describing all this question of itching. So what? You know, why is he telling us about itching his nose or inside or outside? Or, you know, it's really very funny and very strange why he's doing all this. And you say, come on, when are you going to tell us something really meaningful here? Tom, he made a sign to me, kind of a little noise with his mouth, and we went creeping away on our hands and knees. When we was 10 foot off, Tom whispered to me and wanted to tie Jim to the tree for fun. But I said no, he might make and wake and make a disturbance, and then they would find out I wasn't. Sorry, find out I weren't in. You know, again, I think it's another twist or another detail about, the language and the style and so on. And you find really many of this here. And I highlighted that, many of these passages to say, again, the same thing, that Tom and Huckleberry are wild boys, the way they behave, and they wanted to treat, again, you say, what kind of theme is this? What is he going to tell us, what's that? What is this, As soon as Tom was back, we cut along the path around the garden fence and by fetched up to the steep top of the hill on the other side of the house. Tom said he slipped Jim's hat off of his head and hung it on a climb right over him, and Jim stirred a little, but he didn't wake. Afterwards, Jim said the witches bewitched him. Again, notice this funny verb, bewitched him. Today we use bewitch as one word, not two words. Bewitched, or we use it today one word, bewitch. And we are going to come back to the witches. What witches? And the whole idea of about monsters and witches and all this carry on about witches. And Jim, the slave, seems to be a strong believer in witches. And what kind of witches? Why witches? And what is really Mark Twain is telling us here is about the crazy mentality of people, how much they really do believe in the existence of witches, and how much people really spend time, even got killed because of the witches. And I think you know this from maybe last term also, from the story or the short story, Young Goodman Brown. Young Goodman Brown. Have you read that last term, Young Goodman Brown?
No, we haven't.
No.
What?
No, doctor.
Oh, come on. Come on. Yeah. In survey 1, you did not do Young Goodman Brown by Hawthorne? A short
No,
story.
doctor.
What stories did you study? Do you remember? In survey 1. You can't remember. You can't remember.
We remember, but we don't remember the full name. There
Well-
was a story about witches in, I don't know where, who were killed, and I don't know, something like that.
So, no title of not the author, not the title of the story.
I think it's Salem Witches Crisis.
Again, it is what?
Salem's Witches Crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so really, it's this one, Young Goodman Brown. Really, it's an amazing short story. Really amazing, lovely short story by Hawthorne. And it's talking about these devils and witches, and they carry on about witches, and Hawthorne really wrote about the Salem witches and how people believed in witches, and the Salem, if you like, trials, which was, I think, a terrible thing that happened in real life. They tried 9 women and they sentenced them to death because they thought that they told them they were witches. Especially a story also by, I think the story, someone called Susan Carrier, I think, something like Martha Carrier, the story. Again, the character in that story called Martha Carrier, and the way that Cotton Mather, the writer, wrote about it. The writer was called Cotton Mather, which is a very funny name. Even the word cotton and matter, really, it's a very strange name, really, I found it. And he talks about this, again, the same thing about witches. And here, really, Mark Twain also is making fun of witches and witchcraft and witch hunting and witches and bewitching and all this. And here, really, the man or the slave Jim really believes in all this carry on, and he talks about it, and he himself, he said he experienced it, and he talks about seeing the devil, like Goodman Brown in that story, young Goodman Brown, who said he was led by the devil, and who had seen that all the people in his country or in his village, including his own wife, were bedeviled or they were bewitched and taken into the devil rites, which is really funny and sometimes ugly and sometimes terrible, and say, come on, what's this? All these witches. And I think sometimes people told me here that some people and many people really believe in that. And in fact, I told you, I think in survey 1, I taught this not last term, but the term before. I don't know. Did I teach any one of you here survey 1? Survey 1? No. So yeah, I mean, in that story, or in that really elements, we find really strange criticism, huge criticism of the mentality, the really the Puritan, ugly Puritan mentality, how people behave that as if they were Christians, but they were terribly, absolutely anti-Christians in every perspective. And I think the writers here, or poets and maybe novelists, mainly showed this ugly, really element in so many ways, really, which is really, as I said, you know, fantastic and terrible at the same time, how to treat this. And here we see Jim, our friend Jim the slave, believing in all this carry on. Notice, Jim was monstrous proud about it, and he got so when he wouldn't hardly notice the other niggers. Niggers would come in miles to hear Jim tell about it, and he was a more looked up to than any nigger in that country. Strange niggers would stand with their mouth open and look at him all over, same as if he was a wonder. Niggers is always talking about witches in the dark by the kitchen fire, but whichever one was talking and letting on to know about all about such things, Jim would happen in and say, what you know about witches? And that nigger was corked up and had to take a back seat. Jim always kept that 5 centerpiece round his neck with a string and said it was a charm the devil give to him with his own hands, and told him he would cure anybody with it and fetch witches whichever he wanted to just by saying something to it. But he never told what it was he said to it. Niggers would come from all around there and give Jim anything they had just for a sight of that 5 centerpiece, but they wouldn't touch it because the devil had his hands in it. Jim was most ruined for a servant because he got stuck up on account of having seen the devil and been rode by witches. What? What? What is that, Mark Twain? What are you talking, Mark Twain? Is this correct? Is this possible? And notice again, you know, the funny English when he's saying all this. Niggers was, or niggers is, again, you know, plural and singular, and all this carry on about, you know, about how Jim is so proud of his stories about witches, you know, and he has a charm, you know, this 5-piece, he said, coin, you know, 5 cent or 5 whatever he said, and I mean, come on, really the whole passage here reveals absolutely the mockery, the real funny, absolute rejection and the criticism of how blacks really terribly completely believes in monsters or in witches or in devils, and how much they are stupid and how much they are funny and how much they are really amazing and how much they are primitive and how much they are, you know, out of real life, out of, you know, real touch, and how niggers all, you know, unite together or are collected together or are compound together in this feeling of being witch hunters or being, you know, devil chasers. Or in fact, here we see, he said he was, you know, had been, again, notice the devil and been rode by, being, you know, ridden by, being ridden, not rode by, you know, witches. Again, this is amazing, and this is not true, you know. Again, I think this is very funny and very ridiculous, and very sarcastic, very ironical to say that Jim is a witchman or a witch hunter or a wizard hunter or a devil hunter, and he was bedeviled and he was baptized, if you like, he was baptized by the devils, and the devils, if you like, blessed him, if we can use the word here, which is really very strange and very funny and very ironical. And we should not believe it 1 minute by Mark Twain. Mark Twain was just mocking and laughing and ridiculing society. How much society, especially the Black society, the African American society, slave society, to believe in witches, to believe in witches. But, you know, it's really amazing. It's really amazing. I've seen it in my own eyes, my life. Myself, I've seen it in Britain. People queuing in a large queue, really, I don't know how many people were queuing in a queue. And there was a carriage. I've seen this myself in Britain, really in High Street in Exeter City, where I was, my first year in England, which is really, to me, it was an amazing story. And I saw people standing and really standing in a queue in the middle of the High Street in Exeter City, in the southwest of Britain. And this is a real story, by the way. I'm not telling fiction. I've seen it myself. And I saw these people standing, and I was really wondering. I said, what's this? Why are these people waiting and standing here? And I asked one of them, I said, why are you queuing here? What are you queuing for? Are you listening, my friends, to my story?
Yes,
Yeah.
doctor, we are with you.
Yes, doctor.
And do you know what they said to me? They said they were queuing to have their palms read, to read their palms. Huh? Do you have people reading your palms? Palm reader. You know palm reading?
Yes, we know.
Yes, we know.
Do you do it?
No,
No.
Honestly.
we don't.
And if you drink coffee, do you read the coffee cups?
No, we don't.
No.
But we sometimes joke about it.
No.
Yeah. Well, you know, there are a lot of stories and a lot of songs about Qari'at al-Finjan. Qari'at al-Finjan, mashallah. Isn't it? You know, fortune tellers. And I asked this man, I was with my friend, Syrian friend, and I said, what's this? And he said, yeah, they are standing there to have their palms read. There is a witch inside, there's a woman inside, like a gypsy woman, and sitting inside that little carriage. And people were queuing, and do you know, they pay money for it. They pay a 10, like about 7 or maybe more than 5 or 7 riyals to pay for this woman for 5 minutes to read their palms. And I said, do you pay money to have your palms read? And he said, yes. I said, do you believe them? Do you believe her? He said, yes. Will you pay money for people to read your palm?
No, we won't.
Wallahi, this has happened with me in Exeter City in West England. And I was terrified. I said, what? You crazy? Are you British? Are you, am I here in Britain? You know, come on. I thought people here are, you know, beyond this. Yeah. You will be surprised to know about this witch hunting and this crazy thing. And you know, one student told me here, last year when I was giving this course, survey one of the boys said to me, "Yeah, doctor, don't go to Bahla. There they will take you. The witches will take you there. You will never come back." Huh? Anybody from Bahla here? Hello? Anybody from Nizwa?
I am from Nizwa.
Who? Balqis?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you speak about it in Nizwa, about witches?
We talk about it to have fun, but there is nothing like real in my life about them.
Wallahi, one of my students told me, "Don't go, doctor." I said, "Come on." He said, "Yes, don't go there. You'll not come back." Really?
No, it is safe here.
Wallahi, I'm not joking. That's what he said. And he said it in class, by the way. He didn't say
Doctor,
it. He said it in the class. We were all in the same class. And he said, yeah, doctor, don't go there. Maybe they will enslave you. They will make you a slave to them. And you will not come back again. Abdulaziz, you wanted to say something?
Doctor, that's in past, not now.
In the past?
Yeah.
How?
They say things like that. They will take you, and they have a lot of witches and Bahla and like that.
Are you from there, Abdulaziz?
No, I'm not from there. But we hear about it.
But there are stories, not real.
Yeah. Right.
Stories.
Stories.
Do you know anybody who was taken by witches and made a slave?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah, well, this is it. Really, this is the story.
But
you know,
many
they are all...
talk about it, doctor.
Sorry?
Many Omanis talk about that story about the witches, and they believe in them.
Ah, Noor, really?
Yeah, really. The old women and men talk a lot about the witches, and they believe in them.
Maybe they want to tell this to their kids to frighten them, to teach them something.
No, they are believing in them.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
One time, that old woman talked to me about the witch that who make her father as a slave. That's something unbelievable.
Wallahi, that boy, he was a student in my class. Honestly, he told me, no, please, doctor, please don't go there. If you go there, you will not come back. I said, my God, really? He said, yeah, they will enslave you and you will never come back. La ilaha illallah.
Doctor, if you want to go, I will come with you.
So you will protect me.
I'm not a protector.
What do you mean then you'll come with me? To do what? A guardian or a... Huh?
If you're afraid to go. I don't
Yeah.
believe in this.
Yeah, well, really, this is funny, isn't it? It's really we joke about it and we laugh about it. But you see here, really, Mark Twain is doing the same, is really doing the same, is mocking and laughing and ridiculing how people really believed in this carry on and the witches and all this story. And I think Jim was a very good example of this. And many times Tom and Huck, they mocked and laughed about Jim's attitude towards the whole question of mythology or witchcrafting and all that. We went to a clump of bushes And Tom made everybody swear to keep the secret, and then showed them a hole in the hill, right in the thickest part of the bushes. Again, here he brought us back as if to say we are in the middle of like a gang here. And again, to the secret. What secret? And what swear? Swear to what? Like a gang of robbers, for example, or like, you know, here he's talking about that, how Tom and all the other boys, they found, like, as I said, like a gang of robbers, for example. You know, this is the idea, but it's the whole thing is childish in many ways to tell us again how the whole thing was done. And he said this here in this little passage. Notice, the cave opened up. Tom poked about amongst the passages, and pretty soon ducked under a wall where you wouldn't noticed that there was a hole. We went along a narrow place and go into a kind of room, all damp and sweaty and cold, and there we stopped. Tom says, "Now we will start this band of robbers and call it Tom Sawyer's gang." I don't know, really. I really sometimes want to say something maybe wicked against Mark Twain here. I say, come on, Mark Twain, can you give us something else? Can you give us something else? I mean, the same story. Tom Sawyer and his gang, Tom Sawyer and his gang, Tom Sawyer and his gang. Come on, the same thing, in the same story. Everybody that wants to join has got to take an oath and write his name in blood. Actually, funny enough to say that William Golding later, about maybe 50 years later, or even, yeah, about even more than 50 years later, or even 60 years later, William Golding, against the really, well, the English novelist, made something like this, you know, like in the novel called Lord of the Flies. I don't know if you've heard of this. Lord of the Flies, a novel by William Golding. Have you ever heard of this novel, Lord of the Flies?
Yes. We studied before
Oh, really?
in the language center.
Foundation.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, very good. Yeah. Do you think this reminds you of Lord of the Flies a little bit, about the gang and about this Carry On, huh? And about the conch and all, the way each one of them will become the leader in this island, and the way they started fighting and they carry on about, you know, all that. It's something, you know, again, the same childish, because they're in the same age, about the same age, 13, 14, or maybe the same time. I don't know. It's the effect could be similar to this. And you can see here about the whole idea about forming and uniting. And again, I find it really, to me, I think one of the weaknesses of the novel, as if to say, I found it that really Mark Twain didn't say much new to me, really. I don't know. I don't see anything new here, to some extent different from the other one. I don't know. So here you can see that the boys here are uniting and getting, you know, like promising each other and formulating this gang, which is really funny. And I don't know. Even sometimes I don't find it even funny. Sometimes I really don't find it funny at all. I thought this could be something really amazing. Notice in the next page here in the middle where I highlighted, Then they all stuck a pin in their fingers to get blood to sign with, and I made my mark on the paper, you know, signing in blood, which is, you know, childish behavior. You know, they are signing the contract or the, you know, like like a manifesto or like a promise or like, I don't know. I mean, this is really a very funny thing here. Now, says Ben Rogers, what is the line of business with this gang? Nothing, only robbery and murder, said Tom. Or Tom said. You know, he's saying, why are we making this gang? He said, well, for nothing, just robbery and murder. But who are we going to rob? Houses or cattle or stuff? Stealing cattle and such things ain't robbery. It's burglary, said or says Tom Sawyer. We ain't burglars. That ain't not sort of style. We are highwaymen. We stop stages and carriages on the road, with masks on, and kill the people and take their watches and money. What? So we are not, he said, we are not burglars, but we are robbers. Look at this funny differentiation between robbing and burglaring. You know, and again, you see, we are not, but we are, he said, we are highwaymen, you know, قطاع طرق. يعني على علم يعني. We are not. We kill people on the road and take their money and their watches. Must we always kill the people? Oh, certainly. It's best. Some authorities think different, but mostly it's considered best to kill them, except some that you bring to the cave here and keep them till they are ransomed. Ransomed? What is that? I don't know, but that's what they do. I've seen it in books. And so, of course, that's what we have got to do. But how can we do it if we don't know what it is? Why blame it all? And you know, you go on and on, we say, is this a narrative? What are you talking about here, man? You know, you don't know what you are doing. Again, you can say, this is really an amazing, funny story, which is terrible. As an example of mockery, absolutely example of mockery. Another example of dark comedy, which I maybe would use for the term paper. You know, another horrible example of absolute dark comedy about the whole thing. You see, come on, man. How do you do that? And, you know, this is the idea. I think I'll stop here, boys and girls. I think this is the end of the session today. I will stop recording.